What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Loft Sports Podcast. Brian Finnegan here as always, joined by my guy, Tom Schultz. Tom, how's it going?
Well, man, it's Sunday night here, so not looking forward to work tomorrow. But it's a great time of year, right? We got March Madness starting. We're leading into the NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. Soccer side of things in Europe is really starting to kick off with Champions League and title races. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to March Madness. Hopefully,
Yep.
some good games. Feels like
Yeah.
we're due a good tournament, right? Or at least a good first weekend. It feels like it's been a while since we've had a really good first weekend. So hoping this can be a good one.
Yeah, folks, and this is exactly what we're talking about tonight. March Madness. We got a bonus episode thrown your way. The official field of 68 has been set for the NCAA Division I basketball tournament, so we're going to break it all down here. We'll go through the four regions, go through maybe some of our favorite round one matchups, maybe make some predictions on some potential future matchups, and maybe we'll at this time. I could probably just start you a Final Four prediction. Why the hell not? We could do that. So the first four games tip off on Tuesday, 3/17, and Wednesday, 3/18. And the first round officially takes place on Thursday, 3/19, and Friday, 3/20. And it will all lead up to the Final Four on April 4th, and then the championship game the following Monday, April 6th. So you ready, Tom? We'll get on into the
Yep,
brackets here.
get into it.
So let's get into the East region right here. So we get the number one seed, number one overall, the Duke Blue Devils, right? Regular season and tournament ACC champs, going up against Siena from upstate New York, kind of close to us, Tom, where we're originally from. Maybe you had another 4 or 5 hours up that way, but they'll get the chance to face Duke in the first round. The 8-9 matchup, we get the number 8 seed Ohio State against the number 9 seed TCU. Number 5, St. John's, which actually it's interesting that the St. John's is number 5. I thought they'd be a little higher too. The guys on the CBS show they sounded like they were a little surprised too in that manner for winning the Big East tournament. But St. John's will face the number 12 seed Northern Iowa, but that's a very interesting matchup in the first round there. Northern Iowa winning their conference tournament there. They really had to. I think they were even one of the later seeds in the tournament. So the fact that they even got to the bracket as it is a pretty big accomplishment for them. You got the number 4 seed Kansas facing number 13 Cal Baptist. Number 6 Louisville facing number 11 University of South Florida. You got the number 3 seed Michigan State Spartans facing number 14 North Dakota State. We got number 7 UCLA facing number 10 University of Central Florida. And then you got the number 2 seed UConn facing number 15 seed Furman. Thoughts on the East region?
I think this is a loaded region of basketball. I'll always be biased because of the ACC. It's the Big East. It's the most basketball I watch. And I think between UConn and St. John's, you have two dangerous teams. Like when I used to be really into it, not as much anymore, but still watch a good amount. I'd always break down teams into tiers. Duke's a tier 1 team to me. UConn's a tier 2 team to me. And St. John's, they're not in like a 1 through 3 tier, but they're in a tier that in the right matchup, in the right environment, they can beat anybody. They have two absolute monsters on the inside in Zuby Ejiofor and Bryce Hopkins. And Hopkins finally looks like he's playing really well. Oh, and you have Kansas in this region who may have the best player in the region if Damon Patterson plays the way we know he can play. And a good coach, and Michigan State. They have Tom Izzo, a great coach, always do well in March, especially the NCAA tournament. So I think this bracket and that's without mentioning any sleepers or Cinderella stories. I think this bracket from top to bottom, I think is one of the tougher brackets in the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think I could see either of those, maybe any of those top 5 seeds potentially come out of this region here. Of course, Duke, right? Strong defensive team. They really get contributions up and down their lineup. They are facing some injuries right now, right? Caleb Foster's out definitely. He's got foot injury. And then Najong too, he has had his own foot issue. So not sure when he's going to be able to return. I mean, I don't expect them to need him until, through Siena. And then to get through probably Ohio State or TCU there. I do like a potential matchup with Duke and St. John's in the Sweet 16. I think that would be really cool. I see them coming out. You surprised at all that UConn wasn't the 4th number 1 seed? I thought maybe they would have been, even though they lost to St. John's in the Big East championship game. I thought maybe they would have been the last number 1 seed instead of Florida here.
I think what we saw from this committee is they just don't really value the Big East as a conference. UConn winning the regular season title and losing in the way they did to St. John's for a second time, I think really hurt them. I think they would have been a 1 seed if they'd won their tourney, but I think, regular season champs, Florida regular season champs didn't win their tournament either, but I think they just value what Florida went up against all year and who they beat and how they played versus UConn. I agree with you. I think UConn on their day is as good as any team in the country. They showed that when they played Arizona earlier this year. But I can see the committee looking at them and look at St. John's. You mentioned it as well. St. John's is another team that they looked at and they were like, we don't value the Big East. What are their great wins? What did they do in the conference? That's not that strong, at least in the committee's opinion. And I think that held St. John's back as well.
Suzanne has a Big East bias going on in the
I mean,
committee.
you're gonna hear me say that, but I mean, it's hard to argue otherwise. They're a 3-conference league, and I'm not complaining that they should have got more or less, but they're a 3-conference league, and when you look at the 3 seeds, a 2, a 5, and a Nova was an 8 or a 9. They were an 8, right?
They're an 8. Yep.
So not much moving the needle. And while UConn had a pretty good out of conference, I mean, the best team they played out of conference, they lost, and it's tough to pick up a lot of wins in the Big East that's equal to what Florida picked up in the SEC.
All right, let's move on to the Midwest. So we get the Midwest region. You got Michigan, number 1, facing number 16, which is a battle of a playing game between University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and Howard. You got the 8 seed Georgia versus the number 9 seed St. Louis, which looks like a really good team. I saw them play a couple times this week, St. Louis. I was like, wow. That game against Dayton the other day was freaking nuts.
Awesome. Maybe the best game of the week.
Yeah.
That game was
Well, there was
awesome.
another one today too, which
Yeah.
we can get into when we talk about the Ivy League. But so yeah, you got Georgia versus St. Louis. You got the number 5 seed Texas Tech, a really good team, I think, facing the number 12 Akron. You got the number 4 Alabama Crimson Tide facing the number 13 Hofstra Pride, Long Island. Shout out for you. Number 6 Tennessee versus number 11, which is the play-in matchup between the Miami, Ohio Redhawks, right? They went undefeated during the regular season. They lost in the quarterfinals of their conference tournament. And it was actually, I think the guy said it on the CBS show, that they were the last team that like officially got into the tournament. So Miami, Ohio's in the first 4. They're playing SMU. 3 seed Virginia versus number 14 seed Wright State. Number 7 seed Kentucky versus number 10 Santa Clara, which they said on the show that first time in 30 years Santa Clara gets into the tournament. So
And
good for them.
they're not a bad team either. They can play a little bit.
For them being a number 10, I mean, that shows how much the committee feels about them. And then you got the number 2 seed Iowa State, another very good team, facing the number 15 seed Tennessee State. Overall thoughts on the Midwest region?
Yeah, this is a fun region where I think there can be a number of upsets. I like Michigan. They just lost LJ Carson, who's kind of their lead guard guy, and that it kind of showed a little bit. And Clark Kellogg mentioned this on the broadcast, how he thinks that could impact them going forward. Elliot Cadeau actually played up here in Bergen County for a little bit for Bergen Catholic, so I've seen him play quite a bit. But they're loaded. They're the type of team that you throw on, and you feel like any team can play, any player can score on the court. And Landerberg is one of my favorite players in the country. So I think Michigan's the favorite in this bracket. But I mean, I look at this thing and I think St. Louis could upset Georgia if you consider that an upset.
Mm-hmm.
I think SMU beats Miami of Ohio, and then I think they could beat Tennessee. I think Santa Clara could beat Kentucky. Iowa State is a really fun team to watch. And they can shoot the hell out of the basketball. The question is, can they do enough offensively to carry themselves? Virginia showed me something in the ACC tournament. I don't know if that's more of where Duke is now with these injuries versus where Virginia is now, but Virginia has a couple dudes who can score the ball, and defensively they're tough to score against. Could argue if a call or two went their way, they win that game last night. So, yeah, I think Michigan's the favorite in this bracket, but I think there's a chance Virginia can come out of this, Iowa can come out of this. If we can get a Virginia-Iowa State what would that be? Sweet 16 matchup. I think that would be a really, really good basketball game. And then like I haven't even mentioned Alabama yet. And Alabama can score 100 points a game. They might give up 99, but they can score the basketball. And they're going to be a tough team for anybody to match up with. And Tech, I really like them. I wish they had JT Toppin. If they have JT Toppin, I think they're on a different seed line. But losing him's been a tough loss and really tough for them to replace, but a fun bracket where, I mean, we could get Alabama, Texas Tech in the second round. Even a St. Louis, Michigan is a really fun game in the second round. Tennessee, SMU, or Miami of Ohio is going to be an awesome game. This is going to be a fun bracket to watch, or a fun region to watch. Excuse me.
Yeah, Michigan, St. Louis in the second round. That's what I'm looking at right now, right away. I think that would be an amazing game. Of course, I might be taking it for granted. St. Louis is going to beat a pretty good
Yeah,
Georgia team this year, but I think St. Louis can make it out there. I like Alabama too. I know, right? They lost in the SEC title, and I think they lost to Ole Miss, if I recall, an Ole Miss team which wasn't very good
yes,
this year.
they did, because Ole Miss
Yeah,
went on that run.
yeah, they weren't very good. But
They
again,
almost beat
Alabama,
Arkansas.
I agree. Alabama can put up a lot of points. And I'd like to see them. I think they will match up, or they can match up here with, I think, probably Michigan in the Sweet 16. And then, yeah, on the bottom, Iowa State and Virginia. I think I'm looking at chalk picks here, but I think that's probably the right way to look at Santa Clara. I like them too as a 10 over Kentucky here. And I agree with you. Miami, Ohio. I mean, I think the committee was basically like, let's throw these guys a bone. They go undefeated during the whole year. They lose in the conference tournament. And throw them in a playing game, see what happens. And
I think
yeah,
they,
I think they'll go out.
I think they said on the broadcast, they didn't face a quad one opponent this year.
Dude, I looked at their schedule. They faced absolutely nobody all season. Dude, when your best win of the year is against Air Force, who won like
That's
5 games, I mean,
blows
you can
blows
see why
blow,
they were ranked where they
yeah.
were late in the season.
And like I have part of an issue with them making it, but who knows? Maybe they win on Thursday or on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever they play, and I don't go on the rant that I'll probably go on if they lose. But I kind of think that's preposterous that, hey, you win 31 games. Granted, it's a lot of games, but it doesn't really matter who it's against. I don't know. I don't necessarily love that. To just touch on Alabama very quickly, the scary thing about them is the fact that on any given night they can put up 100 points. And I know people are like, all right, whatever, but that you do not see that a lot in college basketball. I think they played a 117, 115 game. Granted, that was an overtime game, but the fact that you're putting up that many points, like if you're Michigan and you have to see this team to get to an Elite Eight, there's a part of that that's going to be a little scary. Like they come out and shoot 45% from three and 45% from the field. You're talking about a game that's in the 80s, 80s, low 90s. No team wants to see that. So at the same time, they can score 60 and give up 80. They're one of those teams, and they've been like that for a really long time, but they're always a dangerous team that you see in March, and they're a team that can make it all the way to the Sweet 16 and then have a game where they shoot 20% from the field and get bounced. So just keep an eye on them. They're fun to watch if you like offensive basketball.
All right, let's move to the South region here. So the number 1 seed, right? We talked a little earlier about it. Maybe UConn deserved the spot. Not between a 1 and 2, not really a big deal, I don't think. But you got Florida as the number 1 seed here. They're going to face the 16 seed, which is the battle of a play-in game between Prairie View A&M and Lehigh. You got number 8 seed Clemson versus number 9 Iowa. Number 5 Vanderbilt, right? Who just beat the hell out of Florida in the SEC championship game. They're facing number 12 McNeese, who I watched them win their conference championship too this week. They look pretty good.
Ever. Program history. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Crazy.
Number 6 UNC versus number 11 VCU. UNC is the team of my youth. I don't really like this matchup for them though. Number 3 Illinois versus number 14 Penn, who won a freaking crazy game against Yale today in the finals of the Ivy League tournament. We got number 7 St. Mary's against number 10 Texas A&M, and number 2 Houston versus number 15 Idaho. Thoughts on the South bracket?
Yeah, I think if you're Florida, Houston, and even Illinois, you feel pretty good about this bracket, right? This looks like a bracket, maybe outside of Vanderbilt, but when you look at the middle of this bracket, Nebraska, UNC, teams that I feel probably peaked and they've come back down to earth. I mean, UNC, it's unfortunate with the injury to what's his name, the freshman.
Oh, well, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, look it up. I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal. His name escapes me. It's unfortunate that they lost him. If they don't lose him, we're talking about this team out on a higher seed line.
Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, Caleb Wilson. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 pick, potentially top 3 pick in the draft. If they don't lose him, he's UNC's much higher up this seed line. But without him, they've been an average basketball team, but probably not something you're scared of. I like the top 3 in this seed. I think Florida's a lot of fun to watch. Hit or miss, they can score a lot. They gotta stop turning the ball over, and I don't know how deep they're gonna be. So those are the questions on Florida. Houston, I like a lot. They have another good freshman, themselves in, Kingston Flemings. You're gonna hear us talk a lot about the freshmen as we talk about a lot of the better teams in this tournament. I like Houston's team, and I like how they play defense. They match up well too. And Illinois is another team. They have a bunch of dudes that can shoot, just straight up shoot. They got Peja Stojakovic's kid on this team, I'm pretty sure. So they can shoot out the hell out of the basketball. So I like the top 3 seeds in this bracket. The Vanderbilt McNeese game is gonna be fun because I thought Vanderbilt played really well this week, and maybe they found another gear for them as a basketball team. But McNeese is a really good defensive team. They turn people over a lot. They're going to be physical. They're going to take you out of your sets. So that should be a fun game as well. But yeah, I think if you're Florida or Houston, maybe even Illinois, you're feeling good about getting to the Sweet 16 and then taking your chances and potentially an Elite Eight game.
Pretty interesting path here potentially for Florida if they want to make it out of this bracket. Possibly a Sweet 16 matchup with Vanderbilt. After Vanderbilt just beat the hell out of them in the SEC title, or in the SEC semifinals. And actually, Vanderbilt played them pretty well during the season too. They did match up pretty well against them. And then, of course, you've got a potential rematch in the Elite Eight against Houston, right, from last year's national championship game. So,
So with Florida, and the Vanderbilt game showed it. That's where they struggled a lot this year. They can score. They have plenty of guys who can score the basketball and create. There are times defensively they just struggle to stop teams, and that was evident in that Vanderbilt game. They could not stop them, no matter how hard or whatever they threw at them. Physicality on defense, just nothing worked, and they've had those stretches this year. So yeah, I think for the most part, they're probably happy with where they're at, but there's a world where they face a Vanderbilt team or Nebraska where both those teams can shoot the ball a little bit, where they're really going to have to key in and defend. And then if you're Florida and you're talking about taking the next step of winning a national title, they need to be more consistent defensively. We know they can score, but if they give up the points the way they did in some of these losses this year, they're going to have a really hard time winning a national championship.
yeah, I really like Houston in this conference here, or excuse me, in this bracket. Of course, Kelvin Sampson's coaching there. I think I mean, how is this finally going to be the year for him to win a national championship? We'll see. I think I've always liked him as a coach. I know he kind of had some issues at Indiana when he was there for a few years, but I think he's done a hell of a job building up this Houston program to being what they are known. Very well, intense, high level defensive play. Right, that's their hallmark. They force a lot of turnovers. They maintain a high intensity throughout all 40 minutes of gameplay here. I think Houston. I really think that Houston's going to roll through the bracket a little bit here. I think it'll be an interesting game against Illinois. Illinois can put up a lot of points, so that matchup in the Sweet 16 I think would be pretty phenomenal. And then if Houston gets through that, and then possibly play the winner of Florida or Vanderbilt in the Elite Eight, I think that's how the South region's kind of looking right now.
Yeah, Houston's good. They're a lot of fun to watch. Kingston Flemings is really good for freshmen. It's a lot of pressure on a freshman to carry your team in March, though, and we've seen freshmen do it before. Maybe he will, and if he does, we might be talking about him as a top 5 pick, not just a 7, potentially 5 through 10 pick. He may be a top 5 pick. But if they can find somebody to help take the load off of him, scoring wise, then yeah, this Houston team can be really dangerous, especially with the way they defend.
All right, let's move to the West. So here's the final bracket. We'll to complete the tournament, the full field is 68. So number 1 here, Arizona, facing number 16 LIU. Arizona, no surprise here. They were it sounded like they were the number 1 overall seed. Were they or Duke? It was one of those two.
I think technically Duke was, but it just may be because of how the regions work for seeding.
Right. Not that it really matters.
This is the number 1 overall seed. This is the best team in the country.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
Arizona I feel is the best team in the country. So Arizona is going to be playing number 16 Long Island University coming out of the Northeast Conference. We got number 8 Villanova versus number 9 Utah State. 5 Wisconsin versus 12 High Point. 4 Arkansas with my guy Darius Acuff out there playing 13 Hawaii, the Rainbow Warriors. Number 6 BYU versus number 11, which is the play-in winner between Texas and NC State. Seen both those teams play this year. 2 very mediocre teams playing in that 11 seed matchup. Number 3, Gonzaga versus number 14, Kennesaw State. Number 7, Miami, Florida versus number 10, Missouri, who was able to get into the tournament. I know I work with some folks out in the Missouri area. I'm sure they're pretty pumped up about that. And then you got the number 2, Purdue, who won the Big Ten championship today against Michigan, facing Queens, who gets into the tournament for their first time. Thoughts on the West bracket?
Queens, man, they were fired up that they were in this thing, huh? And rightfully so. Yeah, this is I feel like this is Arizona's bracket. I
Yeah,
mean, when I look at this and you look at, I guess, the higher seeds first, Arizona's really good. I think they're the best team in the country. I think they're so balanced. They do everything you want. They have Brandon Burris as well, another freshman. We're going to talk about a couple other freshmen in this bracket. Their 2 losses are what, to Kansas and Texas Tech. They're balanced scoring. They have a number of guys who can beat you. This team's really good. Purdue, like, we want to talk about like an up and down. This was the number 1 ranked team in the country at the start of the season.
right.
And they started the year really, really well. And then they fell off a cliff. I think I have it here. They lost 6 of their last 12 regular season games. Then they won 4 out of 4 in the Big Ten tournament and looked like the team that everybody thought they could be. If they're putting it together now, they're really dangerous. They have a number of guys, and you mentioned it as well, Braden Smith, who's one of the more consistent players in the country. I think he's about to break Bobby Hurley's all-time college assist record, which is absolutely insane to think about. And then you have a Gonzaga team that's I feel really is flown under the radar this year. So they can do some damage. Arkansas, they have John Calipari, they have Darius Acuff Jr. Guess what? Another freshman. They look like they're playing their best basketball now. You cannot underestimate having a guy like John Calipari as your coach in this stage of the tournament. And then I'm going to throw BYU out there too, because they may have the best player in the entire country in AJ DeBonza. So while I don't love them as a basketball team, and every time I've watched them, and maybe it's me, I feel like every time I've watched them this year, I've been incredibly disappointed in them. They still have a guy who over 2 weekends can put a team on his back, and he's done it multiple times this year and carry them to wins. And don't sleep on Missouri either. That's a good basketball team that can give Florida trouble, Miami trouble, and then potentially could give Purdue trouble as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is Arizona's bracket here. I really think they're gonna roll through. Maybe they play Arkansas in the Sweet 16 matchup. I think they'll beat Arkansas, and then possibly squaring up. I don't know if Purdue would get to the Elite Eight or not. I don't know. Probably a Sweet 16. Maybe, like you said, maybe BYU. I've got my eye on them. I don't know about Gonzaga this year, but I think Arizona will make their way out of this conference, or excuse me, this bracket. Second time I've called it the conference. It's bracket. But yeah, I mean, their front court pairing is just really good. A lot of size, rebounding, interior scoring. I mean, I think the Big 12 was like the best conference in college basketball this year. So they were able to make it out. 2 losses, which I think they lost back to back, Kansas and Texas Tech. So it was like 2
Yeah.
losses within a week of
Yeah.
each other. But yeah, other than that little slip up, they've been dominant all year, and they might be I think they might be my pick to win it all.
I I
Uh,
I I could see Purdue making the Final Four. I could see Purdue losing in the second or third round, and that's
yeah.
kind of been what life has been like under Matt Painter, and Purdue. I do think it's great that it looks like they're playing their best basketball heading into the tournament, and I thought what they did the last couple days was really impressive, including today. I hold that Michigan team to a really high standard, and yeah, they lost Carson, and we'll see. Maybe that's a bigger loss than I'm giving it credit for right now, but I still think Michigan's one of the top teams in this country. I'd put them in a tier 1 if I was ranking teams. And for Purdue to go out there and really dominate the second half of that basketball game today, especially interior on the inside, they beat up Michigan. I thought it was a really impressive and a really good sign for them heading into this tournament.
All right, let's talk about another next topic here. Cinderella teams. Any of these lower seeded teams you could see maybe not necessarily making a run, but can they maybe get a win or two in any of the regions?
You have a couple jotted down, so I'm going to steal your first one because I
Go
agree.
for it.
St. Louis, I think they're awesome. They play fast. They want to score the ball. They can shoot the 3. The questions will be defensively with them, but I think they can do it. I think Merrimack is like a sneaky good basketball team. I think this is their first year they're eligible for the tournament, but they've been one of the
Yes.
better teams in the MAC for the last couple of years. And now that they're eligible, they play pretty good basketball. I wouldn't sleep on Merrimack either.
Yeah, I like Furman here. They got a strong backcourt. The freshman guard Alex Wilkins. He's really he was really good for them this year. It shows an ability to really create off the dribble here. On Furman, right? They're facing UConn in the first round. Tough matchup. I don't know if they're going to win that game necessarily, but I think I can give them a good game. Maybe by halftime it's close, and then maybe UConn will pull away in like the middle of the second half. But one of those games. And then I also had Northern Iowa here. This was before I saw that they were matched up with St. John's, but we'll see what they can do. Maybe
I,
they can give the Johnnies a good game.
St. John's are they're another team that if St. John's does not shoot well from three and Zuby gets himself into trouble, Zuby Ejiofor gets himself into foul trouble, which has happened this year. This is a basketball team that can find, they've trailed by double digits multiple times this year. Now they've come back, so it shows the resolve that they have as a basketball team, but all it takes is one game where they don't shoot well from three, Zuby or Hopkins get themselves into foul trouble, and now they find themselves down 10 in the second half of a basketball game. They're tight and they're not making shots. They could be a team, again, makes it to the Sweet 16. They could be a team that gets bounced before the first weekend. You never know.
All right, Tom, let's close with this. Do you have a Final Four prediction at this time?
I'm looking at it right now. I didn't mention Iowa State, did I, in that bracket with Michigan?
No, I mentioned Iowa. I like Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa
Potentially in
State's
that
a really good basketball team, too, as I'm scrolling through the bracket. Okay, so I'm going to go UConn. I'm going to go Arizona. I'm going to go Houston. I'm going to go Michigan.
kind of. It was interesting. Remember last year, all four number one seeds actually came out. That was the Final Four last year.
There's a big part of me that thinks that could happen again this year.
It could possibly happen, right?
If UConn or Purdue were in different brackets, I'd probably be inclined to maybe take them over a number one. I know I'm doing that here with UConn, and not Purdue, but I could absolutely see all four number ones making it again this year.
Okay, I'm gonna go Duke coming out of the East. I'm gonna go with Iowa State coming out of the Midwest. Out of the South, I'm gonna go Houston. And out of the West, I like Arizona, and I like Arizona to win the entire thing.
Yeah, I guess if this was the case, I'd have Arizona versus Michigan and Houston versus UConn.
Yes.
So I would probably like a Houston-Arizona final with Arizona winning the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you.
Yeah, well, so how about that, folks? We're in agreement down.
How
How highly we think of Arizona.
I can't stress enough how good that Arizona team is and how many guys can score and how many guys can shoot. They're really, really impressive. And yeah, there are probably gonna be a ton of people, hopefully, who listen to this and go, yeah, well, this is Arizona every year. Every year they have a team like this and they don't get there. I'm with you. This year just feels a little different.
All right, folks, thanks for hanging with us for a bonus episode in the Loft today. The official Loft Sports podcast can be found wherever you consume your podcasts. Check out our website at www.loftsportus.com. I added some more scouting reports today, Tom, by the way. A couple more of your reports are on the site
Hoping to
now.
get more this week.
Sounds good. I got to actually still add some more. I'll probably get those in either tonight or tomorrow.
I think we're going to do some draft talk coming up. It should be
We
fun.
got some draft talk, yeah. So we're going to start doing a NFL draft series for our weekly shows or our twice a week shows now. So I want to start speaking specifically about certain position groups, right? So folks will dedicate an episode entirely to the quarterbacks coming out in the draft. We'll dedicate an episode to the running backs coming out and so on and so forth, which actually leads us up perfectly to our second mock draft right before the actual draft that week. So we're going to give you all the information you need to prepare for your favorite team to start picking some players in the NFL draft the end of April. So including those scouting reports, I added another baseball preview today. I've been knocking one of those out every day, and that will lead up to opening day for Major League Baseball. So check out our articles, rate and review our articles. Please let us know how we're doing. Feedback is very important to us, so we know whether we're doing something right, maybe we're doing something wrong, maybe we don't know what the hell we're doing. Please tell us. We want to hear some feedback from you. Follow us on X, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all 5 social platforms. On those platforms, we are under Love Sports USA. Please rate and review us on whichever platform you listen to your podcast. Thanks everyone for listening. We will talk to you soon.